I want to introduce our guest, Latarsha Burke. I'm so grateful that you're taking time out of your busy schedule to just spend, an hour or two with Kim and I, just celebrating all of the work you do in your community.
Thank you.
I just want to, of course, and I'm going to introduce you to our audience. So Latarsha is the CEO and Executive Director of the African American Cultural Collaborative of Mercer County. She graduated from Trenton College with a degree in English, liberal arts, and a minor in criminal justice. And she also received a master's degree in management from the University of Phoenix. She is a proud mother of four.
Of four, yes.
Proud grandma of two. And she has been married for 22 years, and that is a huge accomplishment. And I say it's a huge accomplishment because I feel like so many people in the work, it's so hard to have it all, right? And you literally have it all.
Yes.
So, no, seriously, kudos to you. So we're going to talk about balance and all of that good stuff. But I thought it would just make sense to just kind of start with, how did you get into the work?
So thanks again for having me. I greatly appreciate it. And so the question of how did I get into the work? So my passion has always been around children, youth, and families. My first job out of college was as a juvenile detention officer for the Mercer County Youth Detention Center in Ewing, New Jersey. And so that was my first experience of working very closely with at-risk youth, quote unquote, juveniles in the juvenile justice system. And so, my time there, I really got a real close-up look at what our young people were going through, what their families were going through, what the system was kind of setting them up for long-term. And just coming out of college, the book learning does no justice for what's really happening in the world and in our communities. So it was really a culture shock for me. And as a juvenile detention officer, my main duty was to secure the facility. But that wasn't my mindset. I was a mother, at the time my daughter was just born. She was not even a year old yet. And just to see how these young people were treated sometimes, it really touched my soul. So I was the person at the jail late at night, working at midnight to 8 in the morning shift, reading to the youth, as they laid in their cells, or making sure the young men's hair was done. Making sure I would bring certain items for the young women that were in the facility. After 5 years, I really couldn't take it any longer. So I moved on to social services. I worked in mental health. I worked in the school systems. Then I went on to work in day treatment programs for young men that were one step away from long-term commitment to like a Jamesburg or a juvenile jail, prison type correctional facility. And from there, I started working with the Division of Children and Families for the state of New Jersey. And my work has been with adolescents thus far for over 20-something years. And just being in those communities, working with the families and, getting resources for our young people, I knew that there was something else that I needed to be doing. I wasn't fulfilled, even with having 4 children, being married, working a full-time job. I knew God had something else for me. And so there came an opportunity to volunteer for this event that was taking place in Trenton called a Trenton African American Pride Festival. And I saw the posting in a newspaper. I had never volunteered before. And, I said to my husband, I think I'm gonna go, check this out and see what's going on, because it's about culture and heritage and things of that sort. And it's in Trenton. the urban city of Trenton. And so I went, and the organizer there, when I walked in, was about 100 people there. And he asked me, he said, so what can you do, you know, for this event? And I said, whatever you need me to do, you know, I'll support in any way that I can. And that was, I believe it was May of 2011. And I'm still here. And so that's how I began.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Very nice. Kim?
Yes, that's dope. First and foremost, I want to say shout out to Trenton, New Jersey, because me and Tasha are both from not only New Jersey, but from the city of Trenton, you know, and growing up in Trenton and now seeing how things are with our youth as far as places like, you know, safe havens, recreational centers, organizations, nonprofits, you know, such as the one that, you know, Tasha has. I just think it's amazing. I think it's really a beautiful thing, because coming up, I feel like those were the places where young people felt seen and they felt heard, you know. So do you experience any of that? Because I know you're dealing with all ages. So like, you know.
Yes. So one of my main goals, Kim, has been to engage our young people. And, you know, I started off slowly with allowing them to volunteer, you know, at our events. But now I'm allowing them to organize events and really teaching them and giving them the hands-on experience of how to implement something from a thought to seeing it happen, and just the processes that it take, you know, to, you know, have a team, to work with your team and so forth. And right now we actually gave that a huge try at Juneteenth last year, where we had the legacy stage. And the legacy stage was organized by our young adults in the Trenton area. And they did an amazing job. They held their own Zoom calls, their own in-person meetings. They had tryouts for youth in the community, at the park. They created Excel sheets of assignments, and they just did they created their own graphics, the flyer, and it was kind of hard for me not to jump in. But, you know, when they needed some direction, you know, me and my team, we were always there in the background, like supporting. So that proved to me that our young people want to be a part of something. They want to be hands-on, like they want to learn the process. And so we're going to continue with that. We also have an event called Story in Verse, in collaboration with the Arts Council of Princeton. And this year I permitted the young people to organize the events we're starting this month up until July. So they've created themes. They created the vision for the graphics for the event. They're creating the music soundtracks for the storytelling and spoken word event. So it's been a pleasure. And, you know, it's my hope that we can do that even more and really engage our young people to get involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I was scrolling through your organization's Instagram, I just saw so many of the amazing events that you guys put on. But I want to double back a little bit because you spoke a lot about like your journey into getting here, right? And how you worked in the juvenile justice system. You went from working for people to working for yourself.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, our generation or just society, we push the idea of entrepreneurship and being your own boss, but nobody really talks about just like the journey to getting there. So can you touch on that a little bit?
So I'm going to be clear, Melanie.
Yes.
I still work a full-time job.
Wow. Okay.
I still work a full-time job. I work for the Division of Children and Families. And I oversee housing programs for young adults ages 14 to 25 across the state of New Jersey. So I play a role in the development of those housing programs. I also play a role in the issuing of vouchers for our homeless youth across the state of New Jersey. So again, my whole entire life outside of my family has been dedicated to the well-being and safety of our youth and their families. And I also specialize in working with expecting and parenting youth, and that includes the fathers.
Okay.
So in addition to this full-time position as a CEO and executive director, it's a load,
Absolutely.
and I have 4 amazing children. So during this journey, I've had 3 children in college. 2 one is due to graduate next semester from LaSalle University. My other daughter graduated from California University of Pennsylvania. My stepson, he was at Holy Family University in Philadelphia. And my mother lives with me. I take care of my mom. So all of that.
All of those
In
hats.
addition,
You're a
in
caregiver,
addition
you're a
to
mom,
working in the community with an
Yeah.
amazing team of people. I couldn't do what I do without my team. And they're more than a team, they're a family too. So, and when you're speaking about self-care,
Yeah,
that's
we
why
talk
you
about
see I need to focus on self-care.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. And I mean, I would like for us to close with that because I think that's a conversation in itself.
Right.
And we can definitely double back to it. Kim, do you have anything? I don't want to.
I just know for sure, Tasha, that you have some good stories, like, working in this
Oh
field.
my gosh,
Or
yes.
you have good stories because you're dealing with parents and youth and
Mhm.
adults, and young adults from all backgrounds of life. So when I think about our city and I think about the organizations, for the youth, I just think about, growing up and going to school, in Trenton and seeing just different, everyone on different avenues, different walkways of life,
Mhm.
people that, and, after school programs with. So I do have a question for you. So what creativity does your organization look forward to contributing in the education of the inner city youth?
We've done so many different programs, Kim. Right now, we're working in partnership with the Trenton Board of Education. We're doing a financial literacy series with a focus on the legacy of Black Wall Street. And so what's so amazing is that, in support of the Amistad legislation, the Trenton Board of Education will be implementing our financial literacy series into their financial literacy curriculum for their students. And so from this year on, our materials will be a part of their curriculum every year. And we'll be able to build upon this event that we're doing this upcoming February 26th at the Trenton High Main campus. It's called The Legacy of Black Wall Street. And we're going to talk about building Black wealth, marketing and branding for our entrepreneurs. We're going to have Black vendors there. We're engaging our youth where they're going to create a timeline of the history of Black Wall Street and what happened in 1921 up until now. And so that's how we are reaching out. We partner with the Trenton Public Library to host our Poetry Cafe series at the school because it was said that the high crime time for young adults is between the times of like 3 and 7 p.m. And so we started a Poetry Cafe series where young people and adults, it ended up, came to express themselves. And they actually named an area in the library the Poetry Cafe. And so we did that for a couple of years. We took it on the road throughout Mercer County. We were at the gallery. We were at local restaurants doing our poetry series that spread to other townships. And then we ended up in Princeton. And so all of that is to not only engage our young people, but to engage our adults. And the focus of the African American Cultural Collaborative is to educate and empower our families, our community about the history of African Americans, the African diaspora, throughout the country. And we also did that with our First Fridays on Front Street, which we implemented in downtown Trenton. And we wanted it to be a space where grandma could come, the baby could come, mom could come, dad, everybody, all age demographics can come and enjoy themselves at an outdoor event where they can eat, they can drink, they can dance, they can enjoy cultural performances. And we did that for 5 years, and we're starting that back up post, hopefully with the COVID pandemic, we can, but we had youth performances at those events. So everything that we do is for the entire family, not just adults, and it's to educate and inform and empower.
Okay, that's amazing, and that brings me to that. Well, that brings that question full circle. The way that you and your organization bring creativity. The creativity.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Poetry Cafe, I was able to experience that. So you guys did an amazing job. I didn't know your organization was over it. Besides that, everything else that you guys are doing in the community, like, certain events that are bringing the youth there and engaging them, I think that's pretty dope, and it's decent, because a lot of times, sometimes our youth gets kind of sidetracked, it's so much is so much is going on in the neighborhood, so much is going on in the community, so much is going on all over the internet, and they are extremely distracted,
because there are so many distractions.
Yes.
It's so many things that they could get into. So I just want to commend you for curating events that are engaging them in that way. Because sometimes there is a disconnect.
Right, there is.
Yeah.
And for me, it's all about family, and family is different for everyone. I mean, my family are my kids and my husband and so forth, but working in the system, family can be the guy that owns the corner store, family could be your basketball coach. So it's important that we embrace everyone, or just keep in mind everyone when we're organizing these different events. And I was going to say something around First Fridays. So even with, First Fridays and it being in the evening time, the goal has always been to keep youth and families together, like families enjoying activities and learning together. And a story that I have, and it just always touches me. This woman inboxed me on Facebook, and she said, "Latarsha, I want to come to First Fridays, but can I bring my kids?" And I was like, yes, sure, bring the kids. We have the bouncy houses, we have the arts and crafts, we have all of that stuff. Bring your kids, And this woman came to First Fridays, and I think the best thing about our events is free. Everything that we have organized for the community is free to the community. Nice. And the only thing they would have to probably pay for if they want to, get something to eat or from a vendor or something like that. But in order to attend anything that we do is free of charge. And so this mother came, and we always had this face painter at First Fridays. And she walks up to the face painter and says, how much is this? And the face painter said, your smile is the cost, And so she said the kids, the face painter, the kids are so happy. The mother was smiling. The mother got her face painted. The kids got their face painted. And that means a lot to me, because I never want finances to be a barrier to my people having joy. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I get beat up about that, Melanie. You need to charge. You know how much money you could be making? No, that's not why I got into it. I got into it because I love my people, and that's it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's your passion. Your passion.
What were you saying, Kim?
I'm sorry, my break up. I was just saying, that's her passion.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when you're passionate about something, you go hard for it. And everything, I feel like it's more genuine, and it comes from your heart, and your soul,
Yeah.
and people get to feel that, and they get to see that.
Right.
Yeah. And it draws people in, so when you see someone being passionate and working in their purpose, it will make you want to support them more.
Right.
Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. So I feel like you've been talking about this here and there, but what are the biggest challenges you face as a grassroots organizer? Because I know you mentioned like money, and I know with a lot of nonprofits, there are grants out there and all of these different things. So what are some of the challenges you face?
Oh,
it's the side for me.
And I'm going to be honest here, because I hope that this could be a testimony for anyone else that wants to start their own organization.
Absolutely.
It could be easy for me to get on and do this work for the NAACP. It could be easy for me to get on and do this work for the Urban League, or for other established nonprofits who are bringing in millions in grants, But to take on the task of starting something from the ground up, and that means forming your own mission, your own vision, your own business plan, your goals, your outcomes, forming your team, introducing yourself to people that don't know you from a can of paint, that journey for me, that's why I will not give up on this. If I gotta be the only one running for the African American Culture Collab, I'm gonna do it. The struggle for me was really stepping out of being naive. When I first started out, it was like a kumbaya. I'm gonna go help my community, and everybody's going to be happy about me helping, and I'm going to feel good inside, and so forth. That was the naive part of Latarsha. And that quickly faded when I went from volunteer to running it.
I'm sure.
And so the challenges were, I didn't know about community organizing. I didn't know about fundraising. I didn't know what a sponsorship package should look like. I didn't know what my introductory letter should look like. Everything was done from trial and error. I didn't know sitting in a boardroom with 10 or 12 people looking for you to guide them in every aspect for like 5 or 6 different committees. You know what I'm saying? Like, it definitely grew me. It made me a stronger person. It made me understand how much I will go hard and fight for something that I believe in, and really understanding how you can't avoid politics. For years, I said I would not engage in politics. All I wanted to do is help my community and see some smiles on the faces of my people. That's all I wanted to do. But that's something you can't avoid, and you have to know your environment. Because if you step on one toe, if you don't know what you're doing, you're stepping on 10 toes. And it takes a while from you to rebuild from that. So there's so many different things that I've learned on this journey. But I thank God because he sends me angels. And I have some amazing advisors that help me along the way, that understand my passion, that want to see this organization succeed. And it's my hope that I can be that to someone else one day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important too, just from the community aspect, just reaching back and pulling other people up. And I'm assuming that's what your angels did for you.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when we think about entering a new professional realm, regardless of what it is, we get in our head about, oh my gosh, I don't know this, I don't know that. But it was just refreshing to hear from you that you kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Yeah. Were you always, did people always look to you as a leader though? Like when you were like in high school and college coming up, did you always have that leadership quality?
I'm gonna say yes. I'm the oldest of three. I always took full responsibility for my siblings. I worked from the time that I could, all the way through. I mean, I've always just held my own. You know, my parents supported me. Don't get me wrong. You know, but leader, I don't think I even grasped being a leader until recently. I try to stay away from that leader label. Maybe I shouldn't. People say I should be more arrogant or outspoken about what I do, but the finished product is all the communication that I need. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as far as, you know, leadership is concerned, I just recall, you know, in high school, you know, I played the xylophone. It takes a leader to play a xylophone.
What is that?
Oh my God, that's what I played.
What is that? Is it like a
xylophone? Is like the long instrument you carry and the bells, the thing. Oh.
It does take a leader to play that.
Yes, and I played that, and I did solos and stuff at our Christmas concert to my bell, and I was the only person that played the xylophone. But you know, I was third in my class. You know, I was the first in my family to go on to college.
Okay.
And then I went through the EOF program, the Educational Opportunity Fund program at Trenton State College, where they had a great support system for students of color. Yeah, but as far as leader, I will hope that I lead my team. I hear that I lead well. Yeah. I hear that my team is proud of the work that we're doing. And that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of being arrogant and stuff, like, I don't know, I feel like the proof is in your work. You don't have to go into rooms and announce like, I'm the leader. Like, it's like, you know, they know, you know, you're the CEO. Right. So that's awesome. So what does activism mean to you?
Initially, activism meant loud to me and outspoken and aggressive, and you know, I think but that's not me. I'm more sometimes they say I'm too laid back, that I need to be a little bit more aggressive, but I believe activism is practicing what you preach and doing what you say you're going to do. You know, and I believe that our mission and our vision is focused, and we do what we say we're gonna do, and that's pretty much. And I'm that how can I say, I am that advocate in the community for the well-being of our families. And it took us a while. We just redid our mission and decided that being an activist for quality of life in your community, that's major, because that hits on so many things.
Let's unpack that. and the reason why I'm sorry to pause you.
That's okay.
But that is real, because I feel like, especially Black people, there are so many adversities that we face. It's just so much going on that I don't want to say we, because I don't want to generalize us, but sometimes we forget, just like, that's so basic, just like
basic
good quality of life. So what does that look like to you? I've never seen someone break it down like this. So I'm sorry.
I'm so glad we're talking about this. So for example, we do First Fridays on Front Street, downtown Trenton, and we partner with local businesses to do that. We partner with the city, we partner with the Downtown Association and all these different folks. So it's a great time, but something that bothers me to my core goes to the quality of life. If we have 500 people on a block, Why is there holes in the ground that someone can trip in and break their ankle and fall? You know, why is it that I have 10 vendors or 15 vendors lined up on the street, and when they come to set up, it's trash there? Why is it that when 9 o'clock comes, we got to rush to pack up because the street lights is out? So what I'm doing, I'm working with an organization to ensure that when we do our summer events this year, we're going to have lights all through in the trees downtown. It's going to be well lit. We're going to make sure that there's no trash out there, make sure those potholes are filled, basic quality of life. Because when people come, the visual has always been very important to me, because anybody can throw a block party and say, I got a DJ out here and we good. No, that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to create an experience for my people and let them know that they deserve this experience. So when they go to another block party, they want, I deserve a better, vibe than this, So quality of life is at the forefront for me right now.
Absolutely. So, you just sparked so many questions for me, because so with all of that in mind, and like when you talk about potholes, and I don't know, like when I think about just like infrastructure in communities, my mind goes to politics, policies, congressmen, councilmen. So how do you engage those people to support your cause? Or do you feel like there's a need to even engage them?
Well, because of the collaborative's commitment to the community, because I got to speak of my team. I have team members that, handle my PR. I have an amazing public relations chair, because in my being a naive person, in the past, I thought if I got on social media and expressed how angry I was about stuff and, and pointed people out and this and that, I'm doing my service to the community. No, it's a way to manage those type of communications. And she has really walked me through that. And her name is Helen Jones Walker. We also have Patrick Hall, who's our logistics coordinator. For example, when First Fridays happen, it starts at 5. I get off of work at 5. First Fridays happens 2 blocks from my job. And so I can hear the DJ when it gets started, but people like Patrick Hall is there making sure that everything is set up. So all I got to do is walk from my job and just greet all the attendees. These are the type of volunteers that I have. You have a volunteer coordinator, Regina M. Jackson. She manages getting volunteers out there to help set up, break down things or whatever. And I'm speaking of all of them because they all have relationships with our city government.
Gotcha.
They know us. They just don't know Latarsha Burke. They know that Latarsha has an amazing team who not only volunteers for the collaborative, but they have other community organizations that they're engaged in also. And so I can pick up the phone and call the director of recreation freely. I can reach out to the mayor. The New Jersey State Assemblywoman, Berlina Reynolds Jackson, was my college. We ate in the same cafeteria in college, We just organized Juneteenth weekend together, I can reach out to the grants manager for the city of Trenton because she's the one that helped me get my nonprofit. So it's all about relationships. And I'm just blessed in that way. Our organization is blessed in that way to have all of these different connections. And they all have supported us. We've been through our stuff, but at the end of the day, they have all stepped up and supported and made sure that we continue our work in the city.
Yeah, that is awesome, because so many people have different perspectives on how the Black community, and just like people who are forward thinking when it comes to the Black agenda, so many people have like different perspectives of how we should engage our political leaders in our community. Some people feel like we don't need them, but to me, I feel like it's working against us. We will be working against ourselves to not engage them and to not, make them kind of do their job,
Because at the end of the day, when the collaborative does a full weekend event for your city, and we get people coming in from New York, DC, Maryland to vend and perform, and we get media coverage, and you're on the media coverage too as mayor, city council members, mayor's assistants, recreation, whomever, it's a good look for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. So we all in this together,
Absolutely. I concur. So I know earlier you kind of spoke about like just reaching back, and the question I have for you is, what advice would you give people who are looking to transition into just grassroots organizing?
I would let them know that it's not an overnight experience. It takes time. Your development takes time. Your ability to organize people organize 20 people with 20 different personalities and to do it effectively, it takes time. And you really need to study your environment. You really need to be, I would say, focused in not only on one specific area, but really know what your targets are and don't move from that. Because even now, I'm doing First Fridays, Juneteenth weekend. I'm Blanc in the capital city. I'm now really engaged in politics because now I'm working on a campaign.
Oh, wow.
So it's just growing and working with new people and being challenged in a way that I haven't been challenged before. Never stagnate yourself. Always surround yourself with people that's going to make you go like this. Just make you just want to learn more, really challenge your thought process. And I'm going through that right now. And I just became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, Epsilon, Upsilon, Omega chapter. I'm their grad chapter, and they have some phenomenal women a part of that chapter, and they're challenging me. So,
nice.
God is great. It's all about your network and your support system.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice. That's really good advice. So you've accomplished so many things. You have all of these events that are pretty much stamped in your community. But as far as the future goes, what goals do you have when it comes to your work? Are there any big things that you foresee yourself and your organization carrying out?
So, I'm always looking to fine tune what we do, and there are areas of weakness that we need to develop, but I was at Princeton McCarter Theater last night. I went to see a musical about Miriam Makita. And
I'm sorry, who is she?
She was a South African activist, performer, singer. She did a lot of activism work around apartheid and so forth. Okay. So there's a whole musical, almost a 3-hour long musical about her life. Oh, wow. And there was an after party event, and my organization was invited there by the staff of the McCarter Theater. So we're sitting around talking, but anytime I'm in an environment, I'm looking at what's going on, how things are set up, because that's just the organizer in me. And I saw that the walls were lit with green, red, and black. The red, the black, and the green. And I'm looking, and I told a lady from McCarter Theater, she's there, I think marketing director. I said, the collaborative is going to have an event here. We're going to have our own production here in the future. And one of my team members was sitting next to me. She was like, put it in the universe, Latarsha. I was like, yes, because it's going to happen. And I also have another vision as being the arts and cultural hub for the city. I see myself as having a building similar to the Brooklyn Academy of Music in New York. I visit that their festival. I think it's the Brooklyn Academy of Music African Cultural Fest or something like that. But one year I went and I took my granddaughter, and again I always observe what's going on. So I'm looking at how they had their vendors set up, the type of vendors that was set up, where the performances was happening. And it was like an open street fair, pretty much. But it was a building in the center of all this stuff that was going on. And people were just hanging out at this building. They was drumming there, they was dancing there, they had the vendors there. And that was their Performing Arts Center. And the Performing Arts Center is who hosted that African Cultural Fest. So my dream is to have that hub in the middle of the city where people can come for arts and cultural education. And that we be the sole host of the cultural festival, like in the city. So that's my vision.
That is beautiful. That's beautiful. So I hear you keep mentioning the arts, and then you're tied to like family and the community and youth. So like how important, do you think arts is for our youth in allowing them to avoid the distractions that are inevitable?
If we exposure is everything.
I say that all the time. I'm like,
and that's the passion behind my work. Like,
yeah,
if our youth don't see it, they don't know to explore it, right?
Say that.
And so anything that we bring as far as performances, for example, we had this Black violinist at the Juneteenth festival, Brooke Alford. And there's a picture, and I have it on my Instagram, of her in the park at Mill Hill Park in the city of Trenton, playing her violin, surrounded by all these Black people. And they was just having a good, it was just like, this is what I'm talking about. Yes, it's Black women that travel the country playing the violin.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying? And we've had multiple presentations like that. And not only do we highlight the arts, we also did an art exhibition with Jamel Shabazz. I don't know if you're familiar with Jamel Shabazz. He's a world-renowned photographer out of Brooklyn who has archived the urban community from like the 70s up until now. So he's the type that walks around with his camera, photographing the life in the community and so forth. And so Jamel Shabazz photographed me. I think I was 32 at the time. And the photograph is called Sophisticated Lady. And it's a part of a traveling museum right now of of African-American women posing. And it's actually being featured right now at the New Jersey State Museum. It's called Posing Beauties. But nevertheless, Jamel Shabazz came to Trenton and we hosted him, and he did an exhibition called Love is the Message. And it was all photographs of Black people, like of us in our day-to-day. And in our day-to-day, we are beautiful every day, every minute of the day, every hour of the day. And so to expose my community to that type of work, it may make some young person come in and say, I want to be a photographer. You know what I'm saying? We also did an exhibition around Paul Robeson featuring, it was called Against All Odds. So it's like we do a lot of different things, and I'm prepping right now. We're going to do a tribute to Paul Robeson, April 9th in Princeton, where he was born, and right up the street from his house where he was raised. And we're going to do a tribute to him, and we're going to do poetry, storytelling, music, just all different types of, you know, dedication to him. So exposure, exposure, exposure.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I say that all the time, the exposure piece, because you know, for the little Black kid who only knows their neighborhood, a trip to visit the university that's big in their city could be the light bulb that will change them and will allow them to change the world. So exposure, it's so, excuse me, so important. Go ahead, Kim.
We did a youth sports expo to do just that.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, if these kids are not going to leave their 4 blocks, if their parents are not going to help them leave the 4 blocks, I'm going to bring it to them. So we had a day of sports activities, not basketball only. We had lacrosse, we had golf, we had tennis, baseball, basketball, all types of sports that the youth could go in and just give it a try, and their parents could sign them up right then and there at the youth sports expo.
Nice.
Yeah, so you know, those are the different types of things that we do.
Very nice.
This conversation is just rolling.